All right, well, finally we're getting to the good stuff of this video series. This is a 2.6 liter Kenne Bell Supercharger for a Lightning. Mine's a 2001. And so anyway, you can see pulling the wrap off. This is how it's received from JLP. JLP is like kind of the only place you can get these Kenne Superchargers. They're like the dealers for Lightnings, I guess is one way to say it. So anyway, it has a stock cast plenum. That's what you're looking at there. And there's 3 bolts inside that hold that plenum onto the back of the blower, and then 3 bolts down below. So I had to take that off of there because I went with their sheet metal intake that JLP offers. But you can see those bolts tucked way down underneath there. You need an Allen wrench with a round tip on it. So you can kind of attack those bolts at an angle, otherwise that just will be a whole nightmare to get undone. You can see the bypass actuator there too. So pull the factory plenum off there and then do a little cleaning. Also, you can see kind of what makes Kenne's unique is they have a male and a female rotor. Maybe Whipples do too, don't remember, but Eaton's for sure do not. Alright, so I got the stock elbow that kind of comes around the back like this and mounts right here, removed. It's got 6 bolts. The 3 hex head ones are, well, actually they both suck. These are actually turned down. It looks like they turned them down just enough to make them fit. So it's tight on the bottom side here, as they are from the factory. And so got those off, got the, I suppose it's like a flange sealant, cleaned up right there. And then this is the intake elbow. It's called a Powerflow Plenum from JLP. Don't really care for that part of it. It's kind of eh. But anyway, I want to get it on here. Obviously it's larger and it allows for, I think this is a Shelby bolt pattern throttle body as opposed to a Lightning, and so way bigger. I should have the other one here to show you, but it's about from here to here wide, you know, comes up definitely short. So anyway, this is a larger piece. They're pretty spendy, just because, you know, there's a lot of welding that's going on here. That probably takes a while to do. So anyway, we're gonna try and get it on there. It comes with instructions and the things, and so apparently maybe have to trim the silicone down just a little bit, make it shorter so that, you know, this can fit on being just a bit bigger. So we're gonna get to putting it on there. All right, so we're on the back of the blower here, and I got the bypass, you know, mostly disassembled here. Took the actual actuator off of it, which goes like this. Took that off, and the silicone coupler there, which merges these 2 pieces. And you'll see we got like a little bit of an alignment issue there. That's not perfect. I understand it's a welded piece, but this bolt is in, and we're off, you know, a little bit there. You can see that's not perfectly lined up, and then we're off a little more, and, you know, getting to be a decent amount there. So and if you look down here, it's probably, I don't know, it's a little ways off. So you can also see it's contacted right here. We have like 0 clearance there. So I think basically I'm just going to kind of nick the end of this tube down a little bit so that, you know, it'll finally clearance and fit on here. So anyway, probably will take several on and offs to get this right. All right, well, it was on and off probably, oh gosh, I don't know, half a dozen times for sure. Maybe more in the 8 or 9 range, and finally got that about trimmed up perfectly. I was tempted to grind down and relieve actually the bottom piece, this actual bypass valve. I mean, I could argue that, you know, you would want this to actually get shorter rather than, you know, making this, we're getting to be quite just a little nub in there. But, you know, in all reality, this silicone is pretty rigid, And I'll have to trim that now. You know, I'll have to knock off about that much right at the bottom by that bolt so that it fits up there, and it can maybe even squish a little bit. That'd be okay. And then of course the 2 hose clamps, which will barely fit at this point. And anyway, that's what we're gonna do. But I got the bolts all to go in, and it was just kind of a fiasco. You can see there's like little spots where it contacts, like right there, and this bottom middle one was kind of a real sucker. The hole, it's, you know, I understand there is some welding tolerance on this, you know, but it's like the jig was maybe off, or, I mean, I would love to say, oh, the blower's off, but come on, now that's a machined piece. So this is machined. They machined this little plate, it looks like. But then, like, you can see, like, how the beads of the weld kind of get in the way at times, is basically what I'll say. So I went through and I kind of reamed out those holes, you know, because they were the hole in the plate, and then the bead had like kind of overlapped. And you can see they kind of like charged through there with something to kind of clean it out. But anyway, it's just one of those deals. This is a handcrafted piece, it looks like to me. So, you know, whatever. You're going to have little things like, you know, if you look like right here, it's basically flush, and then over here there's like a little mismatch, probably like a 1/4 inch drop maybe, or something like that right there. So these are just kind of those things. I don't know, maybe it was to keep water from pooling on the top, maybe it's to make it shed water. I don't know, I don't care. We're gonna get her sorted and get it on here. And so now that'll be kind of the final, hopefully final time taking this off. I'll get this trim and put on there, but that's enough for tonight. We'll get after it tomorrow. Alright, so we got this blower set kind of in the hole where we want it to go, and this Powerflow Plenum, you can see there is some argument as far as where it needs to be. The firewall needs to be pushed back. The instructions call like 3/4 to 1 inch. So if you look here, this hole right here needs to end up on that post. So we got about 1 inch to go back yet. And I'm not really touching it, but you get the idea. So I've marked out with the blue tape, that's kind of where we need to push it back, and we're just gonna start going. We took 3 chunks of 2x4 here to make like kind of a battering ram, and then we brought some pieces along to try and get this to move. We'll give it a shot. Alright, well you see what we've done here. I just was kind of using like a battering ram and just kind of pushing against there. And so pushed this back, pushed it back here. So I'm annoyed by the fact that I didn't see or notice to take that screw out and that screw out, because I would have done that and then that wouldn't have cracked. But basically got, you know, a little bit violent and broke that out and broke that out. So I'm probably gonna, I don't know if I'm gonna go up and trim that out or something, I don't know, or maybe just leave it, we'll see. But I'm also gonna touch it up with a little paint to make it not look quite so trashy. Alright, so the IAC is installed there. Those are the factory bolts with a new gasket, no big deal. And obviously the elbow is put on the blower. And then if you come over here, you can see the firewall has been, you know, they say massaged, I would say battering ram technique, smashed in. And so it worked reasonably fine. And then kind of went over it with some paint to just kind of make it look not so terrible. Even though I got a nice little run there, I see. Anyway, so now the next thing is this TPS right here. The throttle position sensor needs to be extended because it would have ended up like right here, and now it's going to be over or go underneath. It's going to like go underneath or do something different. Anyway, there are 3 wires that they provided with a little shot of loom, and so basically we're going to cut between the actual connector and then this next junction, and we're going to cut right in here somewhere and add that extension, and it's going to be 3 wires, so 6 soldering locations. Alright, so the TPS is extended. There's my little splices in there, and it carries on behind the alternator, and it'll end up kind of sitting like right about there or something, because the back of the plenum comes out and the throttle body sits about right there. And then this guy is the IAC plug, and that ends up still on the passenger side. So next I have to like basically modify some of the studs or bolts that hold the blower down. Involves cutting and some other things, so we're gonna get that taken care of. Alright, so I have my wipers on, battery reconnected here, and you can see we pushed back enough that we're making the firewall move just a little bit, if you see that. So I'm probably going to try and open the cowl up, see if I can get underneath there and just push that out just enough to clear. Alright, so the blower has been, test fit. It barely clears the firewall. I spritzed some paint on the back there, and then if you look down inside here, that just barely clears when it swings kind of back and forth with the wiper. So, you definitely could delete the wipers, but I'm trying to find a perfect middle ground here. So anyway, you know, with that firewall pushed in, it's painted up, you know, adequately. Most of it's covered basically with the plenum when it's up there. So now I'm kind of out of order with, like, I'm trying to match Kenne Bell's instructions for a factory install and then also the JLP Powerflow instructions, just kind of bopping around, whatever. And so on this, basically they have a little bracket right here that goes and extends that over. So you go to these two holes to these two, and then these two to those two. That's no big deal. And then they have this other little sub arm that goes right there, okay? And then also for the throttle body and most importantly the throttle bracket right here, basically this is set up for a Lightning, obviously built for a Lightning throttle body. Well, anyway, I believe it's a Shelby-sized one that's going on there now, but anyway, it's quite a bit bigger. And so I need to cut this in half and open that up quite a bit. So they send a little piece here to, you know, bolt that and make that way. Maybe we'll do that, maybe we'll weld it. I don't know what we're gonna do, but point is I gotta like spread this out so that this all this throttle linkage and everything will work out. So here's that actual Kenne Bell throttle body, and it's got the Lightning attachment for it here, and it says Kenne Bell right on the bottom, but that's gonna be flipped over and on the bottom side, so that won't even really show. But anyway, what I did is I cut a chunk of this bracket off, so that bracket goes there, and then the other part goes there, and you can see the seam that I cut in the middle. And so rather than using this little piece to try and bolt on and do all that kind of thing, I cut it in half and then drilled 2 holes right there's 2 holes there, and then now I've clamped it, and so now everything's flat, you know, on the bottom here and sitting square and straight. So I'm gonna go and do 2 little plug welds there, and then I'll take this clamp off of here and put it over here, and I'll use my transfer punch to keep myself well lined up, make sure that distance is right, and then it'll be just trim it, cut this flange off of it, stuff like that. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna try and see how it goes. All right, so right there is that first portion that I welded on. You know, the shadow's kind of bad, but you can see there. And then over here, I put the other one in place and centered up on my hole, so that we have, you know, we're in line and everything's square and flush, and then reclamped right here, so now I can make my other weld. Alright, so this is the bracket after I got done welding. First 2 welds, I forgot the gas, my bad. And so anyway, now I'm gonna try and cut this out, you know, just kind of run this profile around it and be left with basically just the bracket. Probably could have cut this beforehand, but it was nice to have this flat to help set everything up, and now we'll just cut it off of there. Alright, well, after a bunch of welding and grinding and screwing around, this is where we ended up. Basically, you can see this bracket. I used just a piece of red angle iron and then a couple welds in there. And if you look, now this part goes over the top, so one-handed here. And that hole matches up perfectly. So we'll be perfect there. I'm gonna spray this black, and yeah, that'll be the widened bracket. And you know, I dropped it on the floor a couple times while I was working with it, so I know it's sturdy. So yeah, good enough for what I'm doing. Okay, so I had to pull the rails off again. 2 reasons. Most importantly, I'm trying to put these little horseshoes, these little 180s, on the front of the rail so that this would be the return line, so pressure comes through the rail, and then what is basically not gone into the engine will backfeed towards the regulator. And so I want that to work, but I had it mounted up like over here, kind of like how this one was mounted. And you can't spin this all the way around, so you spin it around a few times, and then this nut actually tightens up, so that's how you control your clocking. But you do have to spin it around a few times, and even with taking just the like ORB adapter off of there, it still didn't have enough room against the intake manifold. So whatever, we did that. And then also I put new all new O-rings on my injectors here. Basically they're the same as what's in a 2007 GT500, and so you know, those 4-valve 5.4s, and so I got a set of those. It's a Molly number, and replace those quick. Instead of just doing the tops like I did the other day, I actually had tops and bottoms. So I was gonna save them as spares, but since I had them out, we can just do it now. So anyway, I'm trying to get things kind of mocked up so I understand where that regulator is gonna fall, because that's kind of the last thing I have to do up here. You know, that's like bolted location type stuff. The rest of it's gonna be just kind of fiddly, you know, making it all fit type stuff. All right, well there's my bracket, all welded, painted, looking good enough anyway. And so it sits facing this direction, so I don't think that'll be really all that alarming. It looks good, and I'll get another coat of paint on it probably before it's ready for prime time, but looks good.